Most Gold to Diamond players stay stuck for one simple reason. They don't actually know what improves their gameplay or why they're not climbing. I used to be in that exact same spot until I built a framework that took me from Metal Ranks all the way to High Masters and GM. In this video, I'm going to give you that same blueprint. How to use focus to 10x your improvement, how to spot real mistakes, and how to fix them, as well as finally building that consistency that is actually going to help you start winning more games. And there's one fundamental shift almost every Metal Rank player gets completely wrong, and once you understand it, improvement finally stops feeling random. What does it take to improve at Overwatch? Before we talk about Overwatch, I want to talk about improvement in general. So, I went on Oxford's dictionary, and they have defined improve the verb to become better than before, to make something slash somebody better than before. So that is what improvement means. It just means to become better than you were before. You want to improve at anything because you want to reach a goal, right? Let's say you like playing chess, and you want to reach a certain amount of elo. But to reach that elo, you have to get better at the game in order to be able to beat the players that are below that elo so that you can reach that elo. In Overwatch, you want to reach champion. But to reach champion, you have to improve and get better than all of the players who are below champion. Same thing for some sort of skill or like practice, right? Like a sport. You want to reach the NBA, but to reach the NBA, you have to improve at at the sport in order to be better than most of the players who aren't in the NBA, so that you can beat them and then get into the NBA. You know, you can apply this to anything, like any skill, any sport, anything where there's like something to improve at, and usually competition. That doesn't have to be competition though. But to reach a goal, you need two things. You need micro and macro focus. Now I'm gonna explain what these mean. Micro focus is simply not getting distracted whilst working on a particular thing. And macro focus is staying focused on the long-term goal and not deviating from them. Relating this to Overwatch, this basically just means that from game to game or in a whole game session, we're able to focus on a specific skill we're trying to practice without getting distracted focusing on something else or whatever. Like we're just focused on this one specific skill. For example, we're just focused on our pulse bomb usage. We're not focused about our blinks, our recall, our uptime. Well, like we're not focused on that. We're focused on how we use our pulse bombs. Two. So this is the micro focus. And two, we're able to keep our end goal in mind and won't randomly change it midway through. So to link it back to this, here we're focusing on our pulse bomb usage because we believe it's going to help us reach our goal of Master 3. Currently, we're a Master 5 Tracer player. We feel like we need to improve our pulse bombs. So we're micro focusing on our pulse bombs for our macro focus of reaching M3. And I've got it here because I forgot. Okay. And yeah, for example, we want to reach Grandmaster 5 by playing only Ana. So this is our long-term goal right here, right? We want to reach GM5. We're currently Masters 5, so we need to work on the things that we are lacking, that are stopping us from reaching GM5, in order to reach that goal. And only those things. And this is the micro focus. You need the macro focus and the micro focus together. If you only have one, you're not really gonna have a good time reaching the goal because you need both of them. How do we improve our micro focus? Well, the first way is through a practice called meditation. Now, I have talked about meditation a couple of times on my channel, but it's a practice where you improve your mindfulness through focusing on one thing. So, if you've watched like self-improvement content or like I don't know what kind of content it would be, but if you've watched content about why short form content and the infinite scrolling isn't good for your brain, it's because it kind of destroys your focus, right? Because you sit on one reel for like 1 second, and then you scroll to the next reel for like the next second, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, and your brain is just flip-flopping between all these things, right? And that's not good for your brain because it stops you from being able to focus on as much stuff as well. It's a pretty bad like ADHD symptom from just going, oh, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. Oh no, I'm hungry, I'm tired. I want to talk to my girlfriend. Oh, I hate my boyfriend. It makes your brain jitter around all the time. Meditation is like the opposite of that. Meditation is the deliberate practice of keeping our mind focused on a singular thing. Now, how do we actually meditate? It's actually pretty simple, and I learned this from a pretty big YouTuber called Hamza. He like used to be the big self improvement guy, right? And he had this framework where you would one, you're gonna just start off by being focused on something. The easiest thing to do is focus on your breath, and like the specific way I do it is by focusing on like the flow of air kind of just under my nose, right? Where like the air kind of brushes up against your upper lip and into your nose. I focus on that. And then, you'll be breathing, you'll be focusing, and then at some point, and you won't realize it, your brain will naturally wander away because that's normal. And that made it wow. OBS just made a really really loud sound. Right? Your brain is gonna wander away, but you haven't realized it yet. And then eventually you are gonna realize that your brain has wandered away. And then like you'll realize you are no longer focused on the breath. So then the next step is you simply bring the focus back, or like you bring yourself back to focusing on the breath, and then you're focused. And it's a constant cycle. Every time you complete this cycle, you get like +1 XP, and your brain becomes more mindful and better. So let me go over the process again. So first, you focus on something. For me, it's going to be focusing on my breath. And then as I'm doing that, eventually, the human mind, it just does that. You are going to wander away, and you're not going to realize it straight away. It's like you lose focus, right? So let's like do this. It's like a downward trend of focus, right? So you lose focus onto whatever you wander away from, and then eventually there's some time between where you will like when your mind wanders and when you realize. The kind of goal of meditation is to make this time as short as possible, right? So at first, it might take you 5 minutes to realize that your mind has wandered. But eventually, we want to try and bring it down to, you know, 1 to 2 to 5 to 10, to like that kind of range of seconds, because then you're easily able to bring your mind back very quickly, and that's really good. So our mind wanders. After some time, after some practice of meditation, we realize we have wandered off, and then we're just bringing our focus back to the breath. And then obviously once you pull the focus back, you're now focusing, and then that is a full rep of meditation. The more you do this process, the more like still and mindful you're gonna become, which is gonna help in your micro focus, because now you're able to focus on a specific thing for longer because you've improved the skill of mindfulness. Now, the second way to improve our micro focus is to eliminate distractions. Now, distractions could be your phone, it could be notifications, it could be scrolling, it could be other people, coming in your room and going, mate, I want to talk to you about something, right? So during a session, right? Let's say we're just playing for like an hour. During that session, we want to have as much uninterrupted focus time as possible. But if we have people, come in our room, or we have a notification, or like our phone buzzes for some reason, or we scroll on TikTok, mid queue, our focus is gonna dip because we're manually like having our brain forced to not focus on the thing we want to focus on, and instead it dips in focus because it's focusing on something else. And you know, every time you switch focus from thing to thing, you know, let's say you're like mid queue, right? And you're just waiting. And then your phone buzzes and you get a notification from your friend. It's a message. And you're like, "Oh, okay, let me just answer that quickly." You would say that takes like 15 seconds in total to see the notification, to read the message, to think of a response and an answer, right? You'd think that takes 15 seconds. Well, studies show, and I'm not going to put up the studies because I'm not a fucking nerd, but studies show, I saw in a video one time a couple of weeks ago, that every time you lose focus in a way like this, you don't lose a bit of time. You lose about 17 minutes of focus. Because our brains aren't meant to like switch around a lot. You should only switch your focus if you've completed a certain thing. So like let's say you're a YouTuber, right? The correct way of switching focus is, okay, I'm going to script this video, then I'm going to record this video, then I'm going to edit this video. And you should do those one by one. What you shouldn't do is, oh, okay, I'm gonna script this video, and then I'm gonna check my phone quick, and then I'm gonna check Twitter, and then I'm gonna go back to scripting, and then I'm gonna record the video after I script. Oh, but then I've kind of got to go do this thing, and then I'm gonna come back to it. No, you should script, record, edit. That way your brain has the cleanest process of focusing on one thing, and you don't lose this time from being distracted. So how do we stop being distracted? Well, you just have to get rid of these things, right? So every day try and ask yourself, okay, what distracted me during this work session or this game session? And then go, oh, okay, my phone. How can I stop that from distracting me? Well, maybe I can put it in another room. I could put it on silent. I could get rid of the notifications. Just make it so it's impossible for my phone to distract me during these things. Same thing with notifications. You know, are they being super distracting for me? Well, probably. So you know, I can just turn them off for a bit. Same thing with scrolling. Now you can't really turn off scrolling. You just kind of have to discipline yourself to not scroll. Because scrolling, you know, during a queue or during a round, you know, it's like a harmless fun thing, right? But think about it. Every time you scroll, like I said earlier, you're switching focus between video and video and video, and you're bringing your focus further away from the thing you're actually doing. So don't scroll mid game or mid queue, because it just fucks your focus. And people distracting you, obviously it's not like their fault, but you know, just try and make like your family or whoever you're living with aware that, oh yeah, I would like to just not be bothered for like this hour or two, please, because I really want to focus. And like they might not listen to that straight away, and they might still come in your into your room a few times, but just keep going. Okay, can you please not do this? I'm seriously trying to focus here. And like if you're doing this for the sake of Overwatch, it sounds a bit silly, but literally just tell them, yo, I'm really trying to focus on something here. I think this is a very important thing for me, and I would really appreciate if you don't like distract me during this period. And like tell them, if it's someone trying to give you something or someone's doing something for you, just literally just tell them, okay, thanks, just leave it outside my room. I'll get it later. So yeah, the main thing though is that you want to just eliminate things that are gonna disrupt your focus, because like that's what distractions are. Distractions are disrupted focus, and you want to eliminate as many things as possible that disrupt your focus. Obviously, like there is more stuff than this, but you'll have to keep asking yourself every day, oh, okay, what distracted me today? And then ask yourself, oh, how can I eliminate it or reduce it heavily? Number 3, this is for Overwatch specifically, really. Just avoid playing whilst tilted, because when you're tilted, you're just not going to be focused on what you're trying to focus on. Let's say we're playing Zen and we're trying to practice our cover usage, right? But if we're on the run of a 4-game loss streak, you're just naturally going to be a tilted person, and you're not going to be able to think clearly, and the playtime that you think is going to be productive is just not going to be very productive, because your mind is just going to get cluttered with anger, with blame, with whatever negative things you feel whilst playing tilted. You're just not going to be able to focus. So just don't play whilst tilted. If you find yourself being tilted, take like a 30 to 60-minute break, come back, think about what what you could have done to play better. come back strong, come back mentally stable again, and then keep going. Pretty short one because it's just very simple. Don't play what's it. It's horrible. Now, how do we improve our macro focus? Keep reminding yourself of your goal. If your goal in your business is to make 3K a month in like in the next year, keep that goal like in your mind. You know, stick it up on the wall, stick it up somewhere, right? Just make sure you keep reminding yourself of that goal. Because you don't want to stray away from it, because this goal is like the reason why you're acting in a certain way, right? When you have a specific goal you're working towards, you are going to act in a way that is fully focused on achieving this goal. So like your macro goal decides, or your macro focus decides what your micro focus is, right? And your micro focus for like this business, for example, could be like making YouTube videos or making tweets or whatever your business is, right? You have to keep reminding yourself of your goal, because if you change this goal and go, oh well, you know, I actually don't really want to, and like 2 months in, you're like, oh, actually, I want to start taking working out seriously. Well, then there's going to be a mismatch in your new macro focus, because you're a fucking idiot and you're changing your goal compared to your current actions, and then your brain's just going to feel weird, because like, well, like, we're doing this, but our goal is something completely different. So just don't change your goal. And if you do want to change your goal, make it something you do later on, after you've spent a good amount of time working on your macro focus. You know, give it like 6 or 12 months, and then ask yourself, okay, is this something I want to continue pursuing? If not, you can change it, because after like a long amount of time, 3, 6, 12 months, then you've actually been working at it and you've probably gotten some results, and now you can actually ask yourself, okay, is this something I want to continue pursuing, or is this something that I'm not really enjoying that much, or is that just something else I want to do? And I kind of talked about it a bit in this one, but you have to like understand the negatives of constantly switching long-term goals, right? So if you keep switching your long-term goals, you're never going to make progress towards any of them, right? Let's say let's make it Overwatch related, right? Let's say our current goal is we are Diamond 5 and we want to make it to M5, right? In a DPS. So like this is our current goal. But then we get frustrated and we don't want to play DPS anymore. So now our new goal is actually going to be, oh, well, support. I want to rank up on support now, because I'm not having fun on DPS. I'm an M5 support and I want to reach M2. So now we're working on this, but then we get frustrated. So then I'm just going to go to tank because I'm not having fun. But then you have no fun on tank because it's rather shit. Right? And then you just like move back to DPS because actually, oh, I was kind of enjoying DPS. Every time you switch between these goals, you are stopping yourself from progressing in each one. Like instead of making let me show you. It's like instead of making a lot of progress in one goal, we make barely any progress in any. So let's say we stuck with our original goal of just playing DPS to get to M5. Well, suddenly we're actually making a pretty good amount of progress, and soon we are going to reach like the results bar we need to hit in order to hit M5. This is M5. This is all the work we need to put in to reach M5. Suddenly we're pretty close, because oh, we're M5 now, let's go. But if you constantly keep switching between, you know, DPS, support, and tank, this is what your like goals are going to look like, right? So like imagine this is like the goal line, right? This is the goal line. And then this space is like the work you have to put in to reach the goal. Suddenly, we're like, oh, okay, so on DPS, you know, I want to reach M5. Oh, but then actually I want to play support because I don't really enjoy playing DPS right now. So I'm going to do this a little bit. Oh, but then I want to go on to tank because I'm not really enjoying these two roles. And then we do this. And then suddenly, after the same amount of time as someone who just stuck with their goal and actually wanted to reach it, suddenly a person who's switching their long-term goals is actually like they've made no considerable progress. Like maybe they've ranked up a bit, but they're nowhere near their actual goal. And this is the consequence of switching your switching your long-term goals, because you just keep making progress in a bunch of different things instead of making a bunch of progress in one thing to actually reach the result you want. Right. Now, so that's how to improve your macro and micro focus. Obviously, there's like more stuff you can do, but like in general, this is like the pretty simple stuff that you can easily implement into your life to make sure your macro and micro focus is good. Now, be a healthy person. I don't need to understate how important your health is as a human being. Health is probably the most important thing ever. So let me help you out a little bit with how to be that healthy person. So, because at the end of the day, Overwatch is, or what do we call them? We call them video games, right? A hobby, unless you're like a pro player, right? Or like a content creator. At the end of the day, Overwatch is just a video game, and it's not your whole life. So, because of that, go outside and exercise. I don't need to tell you why these two things are important. Going outside, it limits the amount of bad habits you can do that are at home. you know maybe you drink when you're at home. Maybe there's all sorts of bad stuff that you could be doing when you're in your home that you probably have way less of a chance of doing than if you were outside. And then obviously if you're already outside, you can go do exercise, you can go to the gym, you can go for a run, a walk, all sorts of things. Because exercise just makes your body feel good. It makes you use energy, and you actually get something like in return, like cardio and muscle. And overall, it's just like a good thing to exercise. It really is. Get sunlight. This is very important. It's really important to get sunlight as soon as you can after you wake up, because it kind of sets your circadian rhythm. And your circadian rhythm is basically just like your internal body clock for when you wake up and when you sleep. If you don't have a good circadian rhythm, you'll find your sleep to be really inconsistent and like bad. Like some days you'll feel tired at 8 p.m. Some days you won't feel tired until like 12 a.m., right? Like having a good and stable circadian rhythm keeps you in a steady cycle of, okay, tired at 9 p.m., wake up at 6 a.m., whatever, right? And speaking about sleep, it's important to get good. It's important to get consistent, not just good sleep. So obviously, sleeping long enough for your needs is important, but I think people put too much emphasis on the length of sleep. Like people think you have to sleep 8 or 9 or 7 hours, depending on who you are. It doesn't really matter. Obviously, you should get enough sleep, right? Like get enough sleep for what you need. But it doesn't really matter. If you sleep 7.5 hours and you feel fine throughout the day, you sleep 7.5 hours. If you sleep 9 hours in a day and like you feel like you need that, that's fine. But the important thing is consistency. A lot of people are not consistent in their sleep, and that really messes up their like body's routine. So if you need to find a time where you could probably sleep consistently for the rest of your life. Like for me, I go to sleep consistently at 9 p.m. every day with like plus or minus 5 minutes to spare. And and because I'm consistent in when I sleep, I'm naturally going to be consistent in when I wake up, which is 7 a.m. And I've been like this for like maybe 4 months now. And I genuinely have never felt bad. Like getting consistent sleep is so important. So and an action step you can take of this is find a time where you could probably go to sleep every day for the rest of for the rest of your life, and wake up every day for the rest of your life. Like find a time where, like, let's say gun to your head, you had to wake up at this time and go to sleep at this time every day until you die, or we just kill you. Because in that way you'll have nice consistent sleep and you'll just feel good. Like trust me, Sleep consistently at the same time every day for like a week, bro, you will feel superhuman. I'm telling you. Have a good social life. You know, I'm not saying you need to be the complete alpha chat or, you know, the complete social butterfly and have 17 million friends. No, just have like people that you talk to every day, people that you can have fun with and do things with. I'm not gonna go to like too into detail, you know, because your social circle is your social circle, and the way you make friends could be different to the way I make friends. Just be like a happy social person with people that you enjoy hanging around with and aren't like bad for you. Because being lonely, like the symptoms of loneliness are apparently worse than doing drugs, drinking alcohol, bad sleep. Like being lonely is on par with like some sort of like brain injury. Like long term loneliness, not just being alone for a day. Like long term loneliness is apparently worse for you than, you know, alcohol, bad sleep, drugs, like whatever, right? Than being lonely. So don't be lonely. And be wary of things like alcohol. Now, I'm not saying you can never drink alcohol or never do things that, you know, I'm not going to speak about. I'm not saying you should never do things like this, but I'm saying be wary of them. You know, don't overdo them. You know, drink alcohol every once in a while with friends because you're at a social event and it's fun and enjoyable. Same thing with, you know, maybe the D word, you know. I'm not saying you should do these things, but if you do want to do these things, make sure it's very infrequent and more and less about doing the thing and maybe just about doing a small amount of it to brighten up the social like the social aspect of where you are. And honestly, just don't do them. But if you really find yourself in a situation doing them, do not a lot of it, do it infrequently, and do it to just embolden the social aspect. And for Overwatch, limit game time to less than 4 hours a day. Honestly, that's probably too much. Really limit the amount you play. Because in lockdown, I used to be a 8 hours a day gamer, as probably most people did, and it wasn't healthy, you know. And the games that I did play, I didn't really improve at them because I was just playing them for so long, right? So you definitely want focus over length because focus is what is actually going to make your skill go up. Length might make your skill go up, but it's going to be pretty inconsistent. I think about it. Would you rather play for, let's say, 4 hours a week, but play really practiced, really intentional, and make a bunch of progress, or play for 12 hours a week and, you know, still make some progress because you're playing, but it's very slow. You know, like it's very slow progress because like you're not actually trying, you're not focused. You know, just, you know, think about that to yourself. Maybe you want to play for a long time, but I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you're not just playing to have fun, you're playing to improve, which in itself is fun. Also, an extra thing, make sure to eat clean and healthy. By this, I don't mean, you know, go full crazy mode or anything, but just like avoid super processed stuff. Avoid bad food. Like you'll know bad food when you see it. Just avoid bad food. I'm not gonna go into detail about that. I'm stuck. I can't move. It's so slow. Okay, now that was all like the real life stuff. That was all the boring stuff. I'm sorry that took so long. I'm gonna speed through this now. Okay, let's go over the in-game stuff. So, there are two big factors that determine whether you win or lose games. And these two factors are mistakes and consistency. And you're probably like, Kai, what the fuck are you talking about? Let me explain, okay? I'm gonna explain. So, first, let me define mistake for you in the Oxford Dictionary. A mistake is an action or opinion that is not correct or that produces a result that you did not want. In Overwatch terms, so like this is the official definition. In my definition for Overwatch, a mistake is a play that someone makes that causes something negative to happen. Either they die, they force out a cooldown on themselves, they've like they're forced to move away when they didn't want to, or it makes a teammate do one of these things. So like you can do one of these things, or you make a teammate do one of these things. Now there is a caveat to this. Sometimes people have their cooldowns forced, and people get forced to move around, but that isn't a mistake, right? Sometimes you're gonna see your tank playing correctly. They're just trying to take space, but then they force out their cooldowns because they made a play. But that doesn't mean they made a mistake. There's a very fine line between making a mistake, which is something outwardly negative, so like something that makes something really bad happen, compared to a play where you expect things to happen, right? That that's the difference between a mistake and just a regular play. A mistake is where like it's almost accidental, like you didn't expect that result to happen, right? Like you didn't expect that result to necessarily happen. Maybe you did, but it just wasn't the way you wanted it. But like a play is intentional, right? Your Ryan could intentionally pin to the left to distract people, and yeah, he's getting his shield forced and it's getting broken. But because he moved to the left, he's created an off angle which allowed his team to shoot the enemy team for free. Like, yes, he is getting a cooldown forced, and maybe he's moving, but like he kind of wanted these things to happen, right? So like that's the difference. It's about intention versus practice, or like accidental. Now, one mistake can very quickly spiral into more mistakes, which can spiral into a lost team fight. It's why one mistake, like staggering really bad at a really important point in the game, can lose a game for you or win a game. Because right, like that stagger could be in overtime, right? And that stagger leads to that person not being in the fight for like 20-25 seconds, which leads to the fight being a 4v5, which makes it very easy for the team with more people to win. And then obviously because one guy's dead, the next guy dies because there's not enough people to contest angles, and then they lose the game. Boom. Now let me show you an example quickly. Let me show you this example. So this is root game I played. It was 10 minutes long. I'm 16-3. It was actually 9 minutes long, or 7 minutes and 54 seconds, right? Whatever, right? And like these are the stats. And you think, oh Kai, you actually played. It seems like you played pretty decent. And I did. I did. Like objectively, you could say I played pretty good this game. However, I made a single pretty. Why is the game so loud? I'm gonna crash out. Okay, so I made one pretty bad mistake near to the end of the game. Right, so you can see I've got 3 deaths. This whole time I don't have any deaths. I'm just chilling. I'm just shooting. We're just chilling. We're just holding first. But then I make a mistake near to the end of the game. So you can see we have a minute left. Like all we have to do is just kind of win like one fight, and it's pretty easy. I'm just shooting. I'm doing damage. Cool. Let me speed it up. Now I make a mistake. I play too close, and I get rocked, and I die. So at this point, I think I'm like 16-2 or 16-3, right? Because I died here, because I made a mistake, and the mistake was I played up here for too long, and then I died. So that is the mistake. As mentioned before in my definition, I made a play that got me killed, and then because I died, the enemy team like pushed forward, and like it was a snowball effect, which led into my team losing the fight. And then obviously because they have the cart close enough, and they have like ults and stuff coming up, like it's just over. We lose. It's like even though I played pretty good this game, but like because I died and made that mistake right then, we just lost the whole game because we weren't able to come back in like a good enough fashion, and we just died. And like, could we have won this fight? Maybe. But would it have been a lot easier to win if I didn't die there like a minute before? I mean, yeah, probably. So I just want to show that example quick, just to show how one mistake can make you lose. Okay, we are back. So imagine each team starts with a 50-50 chance of winning. And I know it probably isn't what it is every game. But just imagine, right? Every team starts with a 50-50 chance of winning the game. The odds of winning for each team will go up and down based on who makes more or less mistakes and who capitalizes on more or less mistakes. And capitalizing, by the way, is just like taking advantage of the mistake someone made. So in that example I showed you, the Sigma capitalized on me playing too far up by shooting me and throwing a rocket at me and I died. So he capitalized on my mistake. And as the game goes on, people are gonna make mistakes. People are not gonna make mistakes. People are gonna capitalize and not capitalize on those mistakes. And then like the chances of winning are gonna skew. So maybe after 2 minutes it's 40 to 60, like chance of winning. And then later on it goes 37 to 63 because someone made a really bad play. But then the enemy team makes a mistake, and then suddenly it's like 74 to 26, and then like every time someone makes a mistake and capitalizes on it, the chances of winning skew to like each person's like different team. Now, this doesn't mean that if you have a high percent chance of winning, you are going to win, because obviously the other team still has a small chance of winning, which is where, like, for example, in that root game, we had a pretty high chance of winning. Why? Because they had 1 minute left, and they still had to win like one more fight. Like we had a pretty big advantage. Let's say we had like 80-20, right? So like this is my win rate or chance of winning, and this is their chance of winning. Sure, we had a pretty high chance of winning, but because I made that really bad mistake, it basically just trolled the whole game, and it turned this into this, because now the win condition was just stop the enemy team from retaking the objective with a full team, and like that's what they did when I died, and then they killed our Sombra, and then they won. So how do you make less mistakes and capitalize on more mistakes that other people make? Because ultimately that's what we want. We want to, in total, we want to make less mistakes and we want to capitalize on more mistakes. Why? Because making less mistakes means that we're gonna lose less chances of winning, right? Like there's gonna be less chances of throwing the game, right? Less chances of losing. Again, for example, in that root game, if I didn't make that mistake, the chances of us losing that game would be significantly lower, because we would all be alive to take the team fight. And to capitalize on more players' mistakes is going to increase your chances of winning, because every mistake an enemy makes is a potential opportunity to like capitalize off that mistake and kill them, force out a cooldown, like make them move, like I've already mentioned before. Like capitalizing is just making the mistake actually mean something. But how do you make less mistakes and capitalize on more mistakes? Well, yeah, you have to become a more consistent player, and this is where consistency comes in, the second factor of winning more games. Consistency in Oxford is the quality of always behaving in the same way, or of having the same opinion standard, etc. The quality of being consistent. Focus on this part. The quality of always behaving in the same way. And also this part. She's played with great consistency all season. You can kind of apply this to Overwatch, right? So, my definition for consistency is when a person has generally good stats in most of their games throughout a certain time. So like, let's say throughout a whole season, a person has generally good stats on their hero and in each game. Excluding the games where it's like unlosable, unwinnable, because in an unlosable game, you can be like 50-0 because the enemies are just trash, right? In an unwinnable game, you can be like 1-7 because you're just getting stomped, right? So barring like the exceptions, those don't really count. Also, hold on, I feel like I'm missing some. No, okay, no, it's it. Okay. Or it's when a player just feels like they play consistently good, and that they don't have times where they feel like they play okayish, and other times where they play really good, really bad. So what I mean by this is like an inconsistent player, where most of the time, let's say like 50% of the time, they play like average. They play fine. But then the other 25%, they feel like they just kind of troll all play really good. And like this isn't counting like the unlosable, unwinnable games. This is like games where suddenly they're just playing really poorly or really well. So a consistent player is just someone who generally plays consistently well in most of their games, even when things are going good, even when things are going bad. They're like they're the player on a losing team who has a positive KD and the most amount of damage. Now, you need consistency because of the 20-20-60 rule. Now, what is the 20-20-60 rule, you might ask? That's a fantastic question, and I'm glad you're still engaged with the class here. The 20-20-60 rule is 20% of your games. That's not how you spell 20. 20% of your games are going to be unwinnable. Nothing you can do. Completely unwinnable. There's just no way you can win it. Like you could have 10 players on your team, you can't win. It's not possible. Another 20% of your games are going to be unlosable. There is nothing you can do to lose this game. Israel promised you this game free for or like whatever, right? This game was promised to you 3,000 years ago. You can't lose it. And then the other 60% of games are going to be up to you. And this is where consistency comes in. Because consistency, being a more consistent player and a good player, is going to allow you to win most of these 60% games. The more consistent you are, the higher percentage of games of the 60% you will win. Now, you have to become more consistent, you have to play fundamentally well. What do I mean by playing fundamentally well? Well, it means there's certain fundamentals in Overwatch that you need to kind of practice and master that are gonna raise your skill level very high compared to other things in the game. Now, you can learn the fundamentals in some places on YouTube. For example, this video on my channel, it's my most viewed video. I go over the fundamentals briefly and I kind of explain what they are and how to use them. You can also just find them elsewhere on YouTube. Good places to find them are going to be Awkward, Spilo, Cajor. Like these are the people I've seen who kind of go over the fundamentals the most. There are other like pro coaches like Capitology, Hunter, other people that I can't quite remember. You know, there's pro coaches. You could also find like lesser known coaches. You know, people like me who just make content, trying to help out like other people. I'm sure they go over the fundamentals as well. Just like you can find knowledge on the fundamentals basically anywhere. Another place you can find them is, well, coaching plug. I have them in my program. I teach you each fundamental, how to use each fundamental, and I go over them, or I'm gonna go over them for each character so that you actually understand how to play each fundamental. But like you don't have to buy anything like if you don't trust me. But I teach all these fundamentals in my program as well as extra fundamentals that are helpful to learning the game as well. This like the whole reason you want to learn the fundamentals is because the better you get at the fundamentals, the more often you'll be able to capitalize on mistakes and make less of them. Like I said over here, right? The more consistent you get, the less mistakes you make, and the more you'll capitalize on mistakes. Right? And the way you get more consistent is by having a foundation of good fundamentals as a player, which will help you make less mistakes, capitalize on more mistakes, which is naturally going to lead to winning more fights and winning more games and leading to ranking up. Why? Because if you win more fights, you're going to have a higher chance of winning more games. Why? Because you're going to be skewing that like win rate to you because you're winning more fights. And then you win more games, and then you'll rank up because you win games. Let's go. Now, these are the main fundamentals, right? There's like more fundamentals, but these 7 are going to be the you know, your bread and butter for learning to learn as a player. So, I'm going to quickly just go over how these fundamentals help in making less mistakes and capitalizing on more mistakes. So, uptime is just trying to put out as much damage and pressure as possible. This is going to help you capitalize on mistakes Because the more damage you're doing, naturally, the more opportunities that are going to open up that help you capitalize on mistakes, right? Because like if you're a Kiriko player and you kind of sit in the back of your team and heal, your uptime isn't very high because Kiriko can go flank and go do damage. The more flanks and off angles and damage you do, the more opportunities naturally that are going to open up for you to capitalize on someone else's mistakes. Same thing with off angles. The more off angles you take, which are basically just angles where the enemies aren't going to be looking at, like away from your team, and taking more off angles is going to help you capitalize. I'm just going to spell it as cap because I can't burst right now. It's going to help you capitalize because the more off angles you take, the more times you'll find enemies who are going to be distracted, or you're going to make people look at you, which then your teammates can capitalize on because now the enemies aren't looking at your team. Rotations is basically just moving when you feel like you're not getting value or when you feel like things are getting dangerous. So this does both. This helps you make less mistakes because it stops you from playing in the same area for too long, which could get you run over, you get dove on or shot at, and it just isn't a good position to be in because it's too dangerous. But it also helps you capitalize. Why? Because you're moving around more. You're naturally going to be surprising people because you move around them. Because you move around a lot on the map, you'll find more opportunities to capitalize on mistakes. Cover is just going to help you make less mistakes by keeping you close to something that is going to stop you from dying. For example, if most of the time you find yourself in open space, well, then that's a mistake and you're going to get punished for it a lot. But if you start learning how to use cover better, then naturally you'll find yourself dying a lot less because, people can't shoot you through walls. Distance management, it's going to help you make less mistakes and capitalize on more mistakes. Why? Well, it's going to help you make less mistakes because you're going to be creating distance from people who you need to keep distance from. Like Reaper, Tracer, Zarya, you don't want to be in their range, so you keep the distance just enough so you can do damage, but you're not going to be in their range. But it also helps you capitalize more for the opposite reason, where you're playing close enough to actually do damage, and you're playing far enough away to where you're not gonna die, but you're playing close enough to where you can still do a good amount of damage. This is very prevalent on kind of more ranged heroes and close range heroes, like Ashe and Ashe mostly, because you want to keep your distance from close range heroes, but you want to play close enough to where you can, still have your fall off, not fall off, if you know what I mean. Cooldown usage helps you make less mistakes, capitalize more. Why? It's pretty obvious, because if you use your cooldowns correctly, then you're going to be less likely to die, and you're going to be more likely to get value from them. For example, let's say Ashe, right? If we use our dynamite more often and to be more aggressive, we're going to be able to capitalize more because we're giving ourselves more opportunities to shoot vulnerable targets because we're on fire. And if we learn how to use our coach gun, then we're going to end up making less mistakes, or we're going to be less likely to get capitalized on. I think I should preface, this isn't about making less mistakes. It's about lessening the impact of the mistakes, because you can make a mistake, but if you have the right cover, the right cooldowns, the right distance, that mistake isn't going to be easily capitalized on. You can still get cooldowns forced out, but it isn't going to be as bad as dying, right? And target priority obviously is going to help you capitalize on mistakes, because if you're shooting the right people at the right time, when they make a mistake, you're going to be ready to shoot them. Now, a quick recap. We are on Masters 5 Ana, and we want to reach GM5. What do we do? Well, first, we need to get our goal, which is GM5. This is our macro focus, and we're not going to stray away from it for no reason. As in, we're not going to randomly start playing a different hero. We're not randomly going to start playing DPS or tank. We are going to stick to Ana. We're going to stick to support. Now, we need to figure out what we need to work on to reach that goal, which is part of macro focus. We need to figure out what we need to actually work on. So, for us, a Masters 5 Ana player, maybe our cooldown usage needs to get better, right? Our CD usage, I can't spell today. Our CD usage needs to be better. So we're going to focus on that. We're going to focus on our nade, our sleep, and our nano. And then we're going to make sure, I haven't like wrote this down here because I forgot, but we're going to try and minimize the, we're going to try and maximize our focus as well. We're going to maximize our focus. Now, we have our micro focus goal, which is going to be CD usage, which will help us focus on making less mistakes by making sure we're using our cooldowns better. You know, our sleep, you know, maybe instead of using it too much in like versus dive, we hold on to it a little bit so that we have it so we can absorb the dive. Or it's going to help us play more aggressive in order to capitalize on more mistakes using like the fundamentals. For example, because we're practicing our CD usage, we can be more aggressive with our nade and sleep to try and capitalize on more mistakes that players make. And finally, we have just be a healthy person, have a good lifestyle, because your lifestyle and your health is going to heavily reflect your capabilities in real life and Overwatch. The more healthy and like happy as a person you are, the more like the better you're going to be at improving at Overwatch. That's it. That's literally all you need. You need a macro focus, a micro focus, a good life, and you can make it to any sort of rank in Overwatch. Now, quick coaching plug. If you found my free videos helpful and you found that they've actually given you information and kind of the courage to rank up and improve at Overwatch, check out the top link in the description. It's my paid program. If you found my videos helpful, you'll find this extremely helpful. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.